I made no money. It cost me money to keep going. I had to remortgage my home to put money into the business. Hey, I really believe it can work. COVID happened as well. And we're just trying to work out, we have a good business. This is just part of the business struggle. So we reinvested ourselves back into the business. Problem solve, plan, strategize. That's what business owners should be spending their time on. The profit improved in the business because I had time. Another outcome of that was having time to actually think and back cost and review processes. And are we actually being efficient in what we're doing? Or are we just doing the doing because that's how we've always done it? And no one's actually stopped to ask the question. As business owners where you feel like you're doing so much and everyone else is, okay, I'm caught up to where I'm up to and I've got time to do this. And I was looking around going, why don't I have time? Why are they not as busy as me, if not busier? But over time, I could finally delegate because I had space to think about what was coming up next. There was a period during that time where we lost $7 million worth of A few years back, I had the biggest revenue year ever in my business, and it actually cost me money to keep the doors open. 80-hour weeks, no life, completely fried every day. And then I made one change, the single highest ROI thing I'd ever done as a business owner. So by the end of this, you'll know the one shift that made me calmer, sharper, more profitable, and pulled me out of the day-to-day while having a personal life. So let me take you back to what I used to be. I was a bloke with a calendar full, always moving, looks like he's winning. He sounds familiar. It's because it was 100% me. And the calendar was like permanently jammed. The Grant Cardone discipline of like never waste a minute, completely booked the whole entire time, task to task, meeting to meeting, just back to back, because that's what I felt looked productive and felt productive. And I thought that's what everyone else was doing as well. Like High Construct grew extremely fast, but it definitely wasn't sustainable for me as the business owner who was actually the technician and running all the operations. I had no personal life. I had no time to breathe. And I thought that was normal. I thought that was the grind of business. It's something that we lean on going, well, I'm struggling too as a business owner and it's hard. And you know, that whole entire persona around a business owner just needs to deal with it. I was the technician. I was on the tools doing the doing at the time. I was the operator. I did all the admin, the payroll, and I was the owner. In a very far distant period, I was technically the owner, but I was doing everything but what a business owner should be doing. Plus I was the husband, I was the dad, and I look at literally old photos of myself and I just look tired and like hints of unhappiness. Even some of the photo shoots on site on finished products where it's like smiling at the end of a project with a team, but it looked like it really was a grimace. And if that's you right now, like stay with me, because I thought that was the price of admission too. Then it came to the year that really should have been my best and it nearly finished me. The year literally almost broke the business, broke me, almost made me fully bankrupt. And it was the biggest revenue year on paper in the whole entire, timeline that High Construct was open, was running. So I made no money. It cost me money to keep going. I had to remortgage my home to put money into the business and ask my wife to go at the time, hey, I really believe it can work. COVID happened as well. And we're just trying to work out, like, we have a good business. This is just part of the business struggle. So we reinvested ourselves back into the business. And it hit me during that point that putting more time into what I was already doing definitely was not the solution. And I sat with my mentor just when we put all this money back into the business. I'm pushing really hard. And I said to him, like, I'm on the outside, it looks super successful. Like, we're on Open Homes Australia, we're delivering fantastic projects. We had a massive team, great social media presence, but on the inside, I'm over being a business owner, legitimately. Like, this is not what I signed up for. And he said to me, yes, I understand where you're coming from, but it also starts with giving yourself permission to have time and space to think, problem solve, plan, strategize. That's what business owners should be spending their time on. And he's like, you set the rules, don't you? Like, it's your business. Don't you govern what you do every day? Like, what is holding you to this whole entire premise of having to work 80-hour weeks and have no time to actually be an owner? And straight away, I went back to him and said, I don't have time. Like, I'm working 80 hours a week to pay for payroll and overheads and just to keep this thing afloat in the hope that we'll get to the next stage, whatever that is supposed to look like. And shouldn't any spare time that I do have away from work, if I get a break and we get ahead on site or we get ahead in one of the developments, shouldn't they go to my family? Because right now they're getting barely any time or any piece of me. And they get the last part of me, actually. I was giving everything, my best to everybody else, and I was giving my least to the people that I was actually wanting to do this for, right? And what will actually, the last one was like, what will people think of me just not being at work or not doing the work thing? Again, technician mindset. My whole entire perspective of productivity was I have to be doing the doing beside everyone else in my business. And it came to the point where he said, oxygen mask first. Like, you are no good to the business, he said, the team or your family if you're running on empty and you can't show up for them. So what actually changed? Well, let me give it a name. The shift was creating space. Deliberate, protected time to think, not react. That's the highest ROI move that I've made. And look, I'd love to tell you that I've got it nailed straight away. I didn't. I still don't fully. Like the first few times felt completely pointless. I remember the first time sitting down going, right, I'm going to give myself an hour. And I just sat there and I thought, what am I even supposed to do? And straight away in the silence, it felt unproductive. It felt weird. It was completely foreign because I didn't know how to actually work in the time that I'm giving myself. How am I supposed to act as an owner when all I've known for the last, 3-4 years at the time of just building on site as a tool-based apprenticeship, then becoming a builder, that transition into business owner was super foreign. But the unlock around utilizing that time where I didn't feel like it was a completely waste of time was giving the space a structure to it. Just like any other part of my business, was giving myself structure to decide on what that is. So here's exactly how I made it work for me. So how do you actually do this without just sitting there staring at a wall was the first question I asked myself. And so here's what I started step by step. At first, I needed to give myself permission. As business owners, we don't really need permission from anybody in our business, yet we're held hostage by it in some way from perspective or expectations from others of what we think others want from us. So I just said, I give myself permission as a business owner to act like a business owner and have time to plan, strategize, problem solve. And it's interesting, like I found that every successful owner does this. When I actually started asking friends of mine in business, not in the same industry necessarily, but other business owners, and they do this as well. They need to, but you just don't see it on the Instagram show reel, do you? Or Facebook or socials, because it's almost like the behind the scenes of what every business owner is doing, thinking the other business owner is not doing it. Well, that was what I was experiencing. So my first objection to my mentor at the time was, I don't have time to do this as it is. So it's like, well, create more time. So I woke up an hour earlier every single day just for me to go, I'm going to use that hour to get ahead of the day. And then it grew into 2 hours. So instead of waking up at 5 to get ready and start my day at 5, I woke up at 3:45, 4 a.m. and then use that 4 to 5 to get ahead of the day, sort of sit peacefully and problem solve what I need to do that day. And then it grew to 6 a.m. is when I started to leave to go to work. So 4 to 6 became own the day, then own the week and plan ahead. And I blocked it in the calendar just like any other non-negotiable. I was so full of jamming my calendar full of commitments that I had to everybody else to solve their problems, but I didn't actually give myself time, ironically, to do the most important part that every business owner needs to be doing. So I blocked it in my calendar. I made it a business owner meeting called a client meeting. So it was a non-negotiable. And the biggest thing was that I gave it structure and then an outcome. What is this hour for? What is this block of time for that I'm trying to solve or implement? And then the other key thing is, what should I see from that hour being spent? So if I'm doing something, what's it for? And what's the result that I'm wanting to see from that? And then after that, I'm like, well, I need to make it public to the team. So I sat down with the team and I'm like, I need to have more space for myself to think, plan, strategize, plan ahead, make sure the business is going the right direction. And I'm not available operationally in this window between X and X, like 4 a.m. to 6 a.m., which grew into like parts of hours of the daily trading of the business. And then I said, like, does anyone have any feedback or thoughts around this? And most of them, if not all of them, said, well, we thought you did that anyway. But their expectation was they thought that, well, that would be part of my role to make sure that everything's going ahead. So they all had jobs, right? So they all thought that it's something I did. Most of them were 100% okay with it. And then what I did was I scaled that over time. So not only did I give myself time in the morning, I started blocking out periods of time during the week, not every day, but during the week on days that I knew were quiet operationally in the construction company that I was running at the time. And then I scaled it over time. Like I worked out, okay, how can I free up time technically and operationally in the business so I can have more periods of time during the week where I'm not needed. Then I worked on the sales motion. How can I make the front end of the business just repeatable over and over so I don't have to think about it and have mental space to treat every single project that we do differently. And then I had time to work on a 3 to 5 year strategy and start really sitting back and going, oh, this is where I need to be heading. And I think the biggest unlock as well is spending time with other business owners, because business is lonely and you're surrounded by so many people, but very few understand what position you sit in. And by doing that, by creating that time, I was able to strategize, problem solve things through, especially things that I avoided because I'm like, I'll deal with that later because I don't have time to think about that right now, or even have time to think about how I'm going to solve that problem right now. And I love this quote from Henry Ford. He says, thinking is the hardest work there is, which is probably the reason so few engage in it. So was it worth it? Well, let me show you what actually changed. What did it actually get me? Like overall, let me give you the honest scorecard, the good and the boring side of it. But the personal outcome was that I was a lot calmer. I felt ahead of the ball instead of chasing it. There's nothing worse than being on the back foot in business and having things crop up that you can't deal with in a level-headed, calm and considered way. I started to become less busy than my team. You know, as business owners where you feel like you're doing so much and everyone else is, okay, I'm caught up to where I'm up to and I've got time to do this. And I was looking around going, why don't I have time? Why are they not as busy as me, if not busier? But over time, I could finally delegate because I had space to think about what was coming up next. So we could work on R&D, things in the business and processes and allocate that time. Whereas before, I didn't even have time to think about it because I was too busy running. This took time to learn how to delegate. And I'll obviously talk about that in a different episode. But that led to having a clear head and a clear direction for the business. I was better at hard conversations and hard situations, which unfortunately sits with the business owner. Like in construction, there can be some hard, expensive conversations for clients, for subcontractors, suppliers. And I found that the more time I had to think through it and the more time I have for myself personally, for my family, the more balanced and calm I was to be able to, address those problems easily. Not easily, easier is what I'd say. The profit improved in the business because I had time. Another outcome of that was having time to actually think and back cost and review processes. And are we actually being efficient in what we're doing? Or are we just doing the doing because that's how we've always done it? And no one's actually stopped to ask the question, why? And one of the best things is I started to have time to listen to podcasts, learn about things that I'm actually personally interested in, which is ironically business, wealth creation, investing. But having that time to go, okay, instead of using the 4 to 6 for business operations planning, I can now do that during the day because I've freed up some time of what my role now is. That morning block is purely education for me, which is fantastic because it shines a light on what other business owners are going through, what they're sharing, how they've solved problems. I'm right into investing and developing. So like, what are other people doing successfully that I can maybe incorporate and add value to my clients and my team? The outcome of that is, or the proof that, of having space to be able to do that personally, is that 2 years ago, I pivoted the whole entire Kai Construct building company from high-end architectural homes for the last 8 years in the Gold Coast hinterland to secondary homes or granny flats, but still having that custom luxury feel that we're known for, just at a smaller scale, only because I had space to look ahead, research, and talk to other business owners, financial advisors, buyers agents, real estate, all these linear industries that all serve the same person, and understand where the market was heading. And you might think, why move from high-end architectural glamorous builds to granny flat model? Well, there was a period during that time where we lost $7 million worth of D&C work. During the period where we had the most rate rises ever, there was uncertainty in economics. So obviously the first thing that you do is you put your project on hold. It's going to cost you $2 million and you're just going to wait out and see it. Not great for a building company. And so from that, I started to look at, well, what areas in residential construction are growing at the time? And by doing all of that process and having the time to think through it and have the conversations, which is not necessarily on site with trades, it's with other business owners, I had lots of conviction and confidence that it was actually the right move to do, despite the external criticism I received. And I'll be honest, some of the DMs and messages that I got, and even phone calls from other builders, people in the industry, real estate agents, past clients, friends and family, not necessarily family because I was supported, but friends, some friends as well, just going, why are you degrading your brand? Why are you going from what was perceived as the ultimate place to be as a builder, right down to you're a granny flat builder now? And I think any decision you make as a business owner, you need to be really grounded in that. And for me, it really helped a lot because there was a lot of uncertainty and criticism that came from that. But on the flip side, that sort of galvanized and solidified the decision that I wanted to do, because that's the outside of what they see. The reality is, by changing the business model, it's in a position where the company grows more. It's more stable cash flow. There's more consistent lead flow and work coming through. We add more value to more clients, and there is nowhere near the day-to-day chaos that I lived in when I was doing custom homes, when I'm building a unicorn every 3 years, one off, never to be built again. Beautiful home, really hard to manage. So one thing, here's what I'd do. Tomorrow, I would block 1 hour before the team starts. Protect it like a client meeting. That's the whole entire first step. That's the first turning point for me when I block that 1 hour out. And if you take one thing today from this, you don't need more time. You need more space in the time you've already got. And you're allowed to take it. You set the rules. You always did. See you next week.